Sorry for the delay. My name is Javier Lopez. I'm from the University of Zaragoza, Spain, and I'm here to present you SITMUN, a collaboration, an open collaboration between different public administrations in Spain and Portugal to create an open source multitenant SDI to help inspire compliance. This is a very long title, but we are a very big team. As you can see, we have people in this slide from different organizations in Spain, from Barcelona, from Lleida, from the Balearic Islands. Here are Fina and Marta from the Diputació de Barcelona. And this project represents a good example of the local regional collaboration. What is the agenda for this presentation? First, we are going to present what is behind this tool, the SITMUN network, what it is the most important thing of this presentation. Also, we are going to discuss a bit about the problem within the regional and local perspective because they are related, but they are different. Also, I'm going to present the current outcome of the SITMUN network, the version 2 of SITMUN. But SITMUN 2 is a success, but it's a success that needs to evolve. And what is this evolution? This is the final slide that I'm going to present, which is about SITMUN version 3, which is open, not open in source, but also open in development. The SITMUN network was started nearly 15 years ago as an European Interreg project between 7 public administrations in Spain and 1 in Portugal. It has 3 main goals. The first is to provide GIS as a geographic information system as a service for the regional and local level simultaneously. That means that a regional administration should use the same infrastructure as all the local administration behind it. The second goal is to learn, because they need to learn how to share knowledge and how to reuse this knowledge at the different levels. They learn a lot. They learn how to share software and how to reuse best practices. And the third, and important, it started more or less at the same time of Inspire. So the third goal that they have in mind is to evolve along the evolution of Inspire. So the platform, the ideas will be accommodated with the changes of Inspire. Well, what is the difference between being local and regional? For example, at the regional level, you should work usually with regional planning, with harmonized data of the whole region. And you work with topics of Inspire that are big. You think about land uses, you can think about ecosystems, you can think of how to manage the waste in the whole region. And you have 100 of users that can edit the data and modify them, and they are specialists in urban planning, specialists in ecology. And also you have thousands of stakeholders, from public servicemen to the people from politics, people from NGOs, and so on. But what happens when you switch to the local in the same area? The problem with the city council is quite different. They work with the same data, but they see something different. They see different topics in Inspire. They see addresses. They see urban permits. They see how to use the public space. They see, okay, I have a problem with my neighbor. I need to agree the use of the land across the country. The number of users that can modify the dataset rise to thousands. Not only that, they are not specialists. They are users. They are people that they hardly know how to use well a GIS tool. And who are the final users? We have millions, because they are the citizens, because the citizens don't like to see the regional map. They want to see his local view. So what is the SITMUN framework that was implemented in this project, in this network? It was a common framework that provides tools for managing data, for managing users, for managing different kind of things. And then on top of the SITMUN is the regional SDI. For example, in Barcelona, the Diputació de Barcelona, his regional SDI is managed with the SITMUN platform. And then each of the city councils and municipalities within the regional area of this institution has its own local SDI personalized to his needs that is using the same framework. And what about the final applications? Well, you can have applications for the regional user and a bunch of applications for the different kind of local users. Even you can have an application that is only for a city or a town, but is also using the same platform. You can realize that there is a connector that is missing there, because in the same area we can have another SDIs. For example, you can have a big city, such as Barcelona, that is not part of the network, but it can provide data to SITMUN. Or you can connect with other initiatives, such as, for example, smart cities and so on. Nowadays, this is a success. There are 8 active territorial entities that are using nowadays the platform. They cover and they give service to more than 1,000 municipalities. Users with right to edit data, there are more than 3,000 users. And around in the 8 territorial areas, we are talking about 6-7 million of people that can use all these kind of services to know about his local view, about his town. Okay, but I said that it needs to evolve. Why? Because it's aging. It has 8 years old. And we know that software is something that gets old very quickly. For example, it works with Open Layers 2. It used for the front-end framework named Dojo. The architecture is monolithic. It's not the best nowadays. It's not the best for change, because it's a problem for SITMUN for adding a new functionality. It's very, very difficult to do that. And also, and they can tell you that, the back office administration is a nightmare. Remember, 3,000 users that you must control who can access to what. But also you provide the data for more than 1,000 city councils, that each one has, okay, they can share the same data, but are some data sets and services that are only used by a few towns or even just one town. And what is the worst thing of this? Well, it's closed. I mean, it's closed source, but it's shared between the partners. So for them, if you are part of SITMUN, you can access to the software, but nobody more can access to it. And I want to think something now, because I saw a previous presentation in the Gorilla 3, what it was about the freedom of our data set, the license. We are talking about that Inspire is open, but when we see a lot of the data is closed or hybrid. I wonder if this also happened with a lot of software created for end users that probably is free in spirit, but closed in practice. Well, and I'm going to end this. We have decided to evolve, because we need to evolve. And now, I present you SITMUN 3. It's 100% open by default. The license, the UPL, the last version, the code, available on GitHub. Moreover, the development, the ongoing development and the discussions are open. You can check it, the evolution of the issues and the changes, and you can see now that there is the project is in active development. The architecture is modern. It's based on plugin. It's not monolithic. The technologies are thought to stay for 8 years, but we are not committed to one technology. This is due to the model of being modular. Now we are based on Spring and Angular. Maybe tomorrow we can change Angular by React or other web framework. Why? Because we have implemented not only at the developer level, but also at the community level. And I'm grateful for them for the change in how they have approached this kind of project. And they have assumed that the network should be also agile. They should use tools such as GitHub to get discussions. They should use GitHub to raise issues. They should to start to collaborate as a team from different administrations, but as a single team to ensure the future of the platform. And now this network is ready for new partners. They need you. They want you to be part of the SITMUN network and start to collaborate, to produce ideas, to use the software to say, oh, this can be better, or oh, I like this, for example. Here you have two emails. The first one is the email of Ricard Scotts from Menorca, who is now the chairman of the network, that will be very, very glad of help you to introduce in this network. And the other email is from the people from the Diputación de Barcelona. So you can decide you can email them, or after this presentation in the network time, discuss with them and ask them any question about the platform. So we invite you to be part of this network, and please visit us at the website in GitHub. Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm Jean-Claude Jaslet. I'm working in the administration of the regional authority of Wallonia with Dominique Buffet, among others. My colleague Nathalie Stephen and myself are very pleased to present you this talk about the reference geodataset of Wallonia and the importance of spatial data integration. By the way, Wallonia is the southern half of Belgium, and it's one of the 3 regions of our country, and I invite you to visit it if you like warm, welcoming cities and hilly landscapes. So I guess I can use this, yes. So in the next 10 minutes, I will try to answer these 5 questions. Why is data integration important? What strategy did we choose? Who is we? What is the schedule, and how do we proceed? In recent years, Inspire has given us the opportunity to make our geodata interoperable. And so data coming from the 34 Inspire themes are more and more combined. And I'm sure many of you are used to cross-referencing these data sets, these data. And sometimes incoherences, inconsistencies appear between data. For example, here you have 2 data sets about representing the buildings, the one in purple and the one in other colors. And you see that mainly for the building on the top, they are inconsistent because the accuracy is not the same. And if I take also the cadastral parcels, you can see also for the building on the top that the building crosses the parcel limit, which is not consistent. So you have spatial inconsistency like this one, so mainly because of the scale, accuracy, or topology. You can also have another type of inconsistency, which is because several data are based on different semantic or conceptual choices. For example, building represented as a line or represented as polygons. This is a different representation, but you cannot use both together. And another type of very common inconsistencies come from different updating cycles. Here you have, for example, the 3 green lines represent a row of trees. And the situation has changed in the field, and we should have updated the green lines, but you see that they were not. So maybe they will be updated next year, but in the meantime, you have inconsistencies due to different updating cycles. So, taken into account these problems, we are now building in Wallonia the reference geospatial dataset of Wallonia. We call it the georeferential, so I will try and use this word a lot, but it's not very easy to speak, so. Of course, Inspire data, mainly from Annex 1 and Annex 2, are very important to build this data set of reference data. Because the georeferential is seen mainly as a basic framework for positioning the other geodata and allowing spatial analysis. Its main functions are visualization, of course, like a background, for example, for thematic data, and also for geographic selection or linking together spatial or non-spatial features together. It's designed to meet many general purpose needs, be it statistics or various regional policies management. One word of the governance. The georeferential is a key element of the Walloon region's geomatics vision. It was established by the Infrasig decree, which also created a geomatics committee that voted geomatics strategic and operational plans. Before adopting these plans, we launched a collaborative approach, and among others, we put in place a working group and a technical committee about the georeferential. And this approach brought together representatives from the private, scientific, and of course, public sectors at the various levels of the Belgian administration. The main result of this collaborative approach are 2 actions in the operational geomatics plan of Wallonia, POGW, sorry. Action 4 consists of putting in place in less than 2 years a limited version of the georeferential, which with only 4 first basic layers: roads, buildings, administrative limits, and addresses. Action 5 is preparing for the future by launching pilot projects in order to improve the quality of the next data set to be added later. So we have in the center a lot of existing data sets that are fit for the purpose of reference data. You see, you recognize the icons of buildings, road networks, addresses, hydrography, and so on. And our vision is there is a need to integrate these data. First, to improve their quality, and finally, to detect incoherencies, inconsistencies between data sets, we could say between data sets from the Inspire themes, and correct them whenever possible. For the moment, we do that for the 4 first layers, And this process relies heavily on human interaction. On the right, you see that we have also set up a list of criteria because our georeferential should restrict to data of general interest, covering the entire territory of Walloon region and meeting the highest requirements, quality requirements. This integrated vision was inspired by our experience of the recent years in the updating process of the PYCC, which is our large-scale digital mapping project. As you can see, it's very detailed, and it comes from the world of public works plans. And it is indeed updated thanks to a collaboration between our administration, our regional administration of Wallonia, its subcontractors, and its partners of the Waltopo Convention, which are utility companies. The PYCC is also linked to other reference datasets, such as the regional road network database, in order to benefit from most recent attribute data. The main features of the PYCC's updating process are integration as a source of warnings and feedback when inconsistencies are detected. Also, a unique identifier used to link objects externally and internally, and also to ensure traceability. Finally, the Waltopo method guarantees that all incoming topographic data are collected in the field in a consistent manner. Waltopo will soon be mandatory in Wallonia for all the public works as-built plans. These main features of the updating process of the PYCC are now transposed into the georeferential and automated whenever possible. So this is, I come to the end. I hope you'll remember that my key message is the need to data integration when creating a general purpose reference geodataset. This integration ensures that inconsistencies can be between different data from different sources, or between, let's say more generically, between data from different Inspire teams. Our inconsistency between them are detected and can be corrected through a feedback loop to the data producers. Here is it. Thank you very much. I hope we have time for questions.
Okay, it works. Jacques-Claude, maybe one question from my side. Looking at your presentation, I was wondering, how do you interact with cities and villages in Wallonia? Because they are sometimes, most of the times, let's say, the first ones that know that there's a new address, that there's a new road and stuff like that. Is something foreseen in the project, or is it just, let's say, the SPW who is taking the lead and mapping everything so that the cities don't have to worry about that? Or
for the moment, we are working with subcontractors that have, within their missions, they have to go in the field and see what has changed from the time of the data and now. But we also have thought about crowdsourcing. But for the moment, we limit our crowdsourcing application to, let's say, local administrations and our partners of the public utility, of the public utility sector. But we have an application ready, and the problem if we open it to any citizen is the back office. We have to be able to cope with a very huge amount of notifications, and maybe some are not really important or are not really objective, let's say. And we would have to control more than by using only what has been communicated by authorities, I would say.
Welcome to my presentation. My name is Jürgen Richter. I'm working in a section of GIS coordination at the administration of the County of Hildesheim. So at first I want to show you where the region of interest is. Now the County of Hildesheim is located in the heart of Germany, at the state of Lower Saxony, and the County of Hildesheim, there are 18 affiliated towns and municipalities of this county, and you can see the 18 affiliated towns there on the map. So, what is the problem? So, we are a little bit scared about it, and yeah, the main problem is that the municipalities and the affiliated towns has small local administrations, and they work approximately 25 employees, for example, there, and they have lots of work, and they work in some different sections of work. They work in for example, in the work building authorities or in cemetery administrations, and they are the Inspire specialists on top. Yeah, and the administrations don't have enough personal, financial, and technological resources to implement Inspire, and they don't have specialists about SDI, GIS, or informatic, and so on. And the result is that is a really big challenge to implement Inspire. So the local level is primarily concerned by the Inspire directive. For example, for protected sites and hydrography or planned land use. Yes. And our solution is that we make it together. And we think it is easier to implement Inspire. Yes, the County of Hildesheim decided that we make a collaboration with the affiliated towns, and we set up a working group from different local authorities and several experts from different sections of work. And I will show you our roadmap to implement Inspire. On the bottom left section, you can see our first task. We had to identify our Inspire datasets. Then we developed standards to capture the metadata in the metadata catalog. For example, the namespaces for the same datasets, and now we are on this part to develop regional data models as a pre-step to transform our datasets in the Inspire data model. And then we want to publish our data as Inspire View and download services. So our organizational solution is that the corresponding data keeping agencies publish their own metadata and data. And the working group developed guidelines for example, to capture the metadata. We developed templates to capture the metadata for the metadata catalog, and developed guidelines, data models. And in the future, we want to develop templates for the data transformation in the Inspire data model. And yeah, the working group supports all the local authorities as well. So our technical solution is that we hosted the software to capture the metadata catalog, the data, and the platform to publish Inspire services that we hosted in a data center. And the benefit is that we have an Inspire compliant SDI, and the data center guarantee the quality and availability of services. And the templates to capture the metadata and yeah, the templates for the regional data models make the implementation for the local authorities easier. So which assistance is required? In my opinion, I think that the local authorities need more understandable support from higher authorities for non-specialists, I think, and they need step-by-step guidelines to let them know what is to do from the first step to the last step to implement Inspire. And it is also very helpful to make workshops about Inspire and the implementation of Inspire for non-specialists, to let the people understand what is to do. So thank you for your attention, and now it's time for questions.
So I have 10 minutes to talk to you about how we slowly got aware about Inspire at the city of Ghent, which was quite a process, I must say. First, a little bit of publicity. This is the city of Ghent, 50 kilometers to the west, I guess, you arrive at. Many people, many students, many jobs, but after all, as they call it, a pocket-sized metropolis. But okay, you didn't come for this, you came for geodata. This is a little cartoon of our SDI at the city of Ghent. So we have all the people on top working with the data, we have the databases, we have the metadata and stuff like that. And it's all bit by bit getting slowly integrated. We have, let's say, up to 700 layers internal. Some of them we got through Inspire in our database, other ones we sent to Inspire. So we have also the open data, which is available for the users, and for us, especially for you, also for our own use, because if we don't use our own data, the quality gets down. So that's what we do. We have the metadata also, and we also let the data be harvested by the European community, by Information Flanders, and so on and so on. But okay, the talk is about how did we get inspired? Well, at first I must say it was a bit, what, Inspire? Do we have something to do with Inspire? Is it our thing? And isn't that something for the regional or federal level? Because they have all the data, they have the height models, they have the databases on rivers, and so on and so on. So it's fun to have Inspire, it's fun to have an infrastructure, it's fun to use the data for our own use. But where do we come in? Except using the data. And then we slowly got aware that there are some interesting things about Inspire, which are quite interesting for the city, which are quite nice. For example, we actually manage data, data which is used in Inspire. For example, if you look at addresses, we are the ones that give addresses to houses. So, and luckily we had Information Flanders who set up the platform so that we can easily, once we have a new address, that it can flow through to the whole data set, to CRAP, to adressenregister, to Europe, and so along and so on. Buildings also. Actually, we are the first one who knows that there will be a building or a building will be demolished because we give permits. That's another thing. If you look at roads, well, if you look at the roads in Flanders, there are about 66,000 kilometers of roads in Flanders, of which 60,000 are local roads. So we have a lot of information which we can share with each other. So we actually manage data. That's the first thing. And we came aware, well, we weren't aware that we were getting inspired because we had the region helping us with all the reference data, the authentic data sets, and we were just giving input. But actually, we are already inspired that way. Second thing is, if you want to set up new layers of information or information people need, there are actually data models, which is good. We don't have to think about data models anymore because a lot of other people did it for us. Quite a new example of what we set up, or are trying to set up in the next coming months, is a register on official place names like streets, squares, parks, and bridges. They all can have official street names. And looking at Inspire, we have named place, okay, that we can use not only for the official things, but also for the non-official things, so that other services can use the non-official names also to find a place and stuff like that. So there are data models. Yay. Second good thing about Inspire. Third thing, hooray for semantics. At the city of Gent, we also had some European projects, which are Oasis, Citadel on the Move, Poloviso, all about linked data. And if we talk linked data, we talk semantics. And hooray, hooray, Inspire has definitions on everything, so we can reuse them. Well, which was quite interesting because all the people from linked data, they don't know geography data a lot. So the first time I was in an Oasis meeting, they said, okay, railroads, we will use schema.org. I said, why? There are definitions. We have Inspire, which is for the whole of Europe. So why don't we use that one? And so they also slowly got inspired. So actually, already 3 things we can use. But of course, if we want to continue and improve and share more data and become more aware of data and use data, then the most difficult tasks come. When there's a data model, we need to fill in the data. And we need to try to find in the city a way that people don't have extra work, that it's actually integrated in their work processes, in their things they have, or in their analyses, or in the way the city works, that we can gather the data without people actually, well, feeling obliged to do these things. Because if you're obliged, you don't have a lot of, well, how should we call it? You don't want to do it if you're obliged. You need to have some benefit somewhere. And for example, for addresses, that's easy because we can provide the people who are actually assigning addresses with an application that helps them in their work, that they can see, actually, based on the things I see on a map, can I assign an address or not? Because there are some rules. So there needs to be a parcel, there needs to be a house or a plan for a house and stuff like that. So actually, they have a workflow now where they actually are obliged, well, that's helping them and actually helps them also directly pinpointing an address at a place and so on and so on. Also, so it's not data for the purpose of having data, it's actually, do we need the data? Can we put it in the working processes? And also sometimes extending Inspire to have the right data also for analysis and stuff like that. Second thing, also, are we the ones that know at first hand? For example, I talked about the buildings. Well, and we know that there might be a building or a building might disappear. But when does it disappear, or where, or who, or when is it built? That are things we actually don't know. And there are other, let's say, governments who may know earlier. For example, if you build a new house, you have federal taxes on houses. So I guess maybe the cadastre will know. And maybe they can also put a little bit of the data inside it. So that's one thing we need to look at, and actually we have a lot of work on that, is trying to find who knows things first. It could be the municipality, it could be some other thing. So that's why we need some kind of governance structure for the data management. Not only at the municipality level, but over the whole set of, people who know. And Flanders, we are lucky. Information Flanders is steering that process bit by bit, so we don't have to worry about it. And they have very good meetings where we can say what we want. And so that's nice. A third thing, what about the standards? Because I already thought about Oasis. I just typed in this morning, if you know the website, you have linked open vocabularies where you can look for definitions for stuff. And I put in, this morning, I searched the definition for river. And I found 59 different definitions. So I guess that's another working point for not only Inspire, but for the whole of Europe, to actually bless some kinds of standards and let municipalities know, even if not only the GIS people in municipalities, but the data people in municipalities, which one should we use? Because 59, if I use Inspire, and my colleague somewhere else uses schema.org, and so on, we're a bit confused. So that's something we need to work on also. And the last one is lineage and business rules, because reference data sets are there to end extra data on them. And of course, reality changes. Parcels split, parcels are merged, but also it changes when they don't change in reality. For example, if we improve geometry of things. We have a nice talk about it all the time. But for example, one difficult thing we struggle a lot with is, okay, these changes that are improvements of the geometry, because the nature of parcels, of course, they split, they merge. Sometimes we copy the parcels to have a historic reference to these things. And if the reference changes, then the zones might not be quite, well, they can be more accurate, but our data linked to the reference is wrong. So we need to change all these kinds of things. So I guess for the next thing, next to Inspire, we need to think about, are there business rules, for example, and how do we deal with the lineages of the data, and so on and so on. So that's something we still struggle with. So to conclude in these 10 minutes, Inspire is finding its way to cities. Well, it's more than just downloading the data and using the data. No, it's about we share the data too. There are data models, there are semantics, so we can actually use it to be incorporated in a bigger thing. But there's still a lot of work to do. So as I said, we need to look at optimal ways for gathering the data. We need to look at optimal ways to deal with changes in the data. And we need to narrow the university or universum of standards. So that's the thoughts we have in Gent about Inspire. So I thank you for your attention.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Caroline Willen, and I work for the Flanders Information Agency. And I'm here to give a small introduction to one of our projects, the generic feedback system for digital information in Flanders. We all know that the modern civilian, entrepreneur, or government uses more and more digital data. Open data is promoted, and reuse of data is no longer an exception. And I think we all have experienced it before. You're looking at data or you're working with data and you see an error in the data. Something is missing or something is incorrect. You start clicking, you start searching, you find an email address and you think, okay, how can I describe the error? You start, maybe you take a print screen and then you think, whatever, I haven't seen the error, I just work and I do my thing. So the users of this data is willing to contribute to accurate data. On the other side, the source holder aims to improve the quality of his data. But therefore, the user must be able to give feedback about incorrect information from the application where he looks or works with the data. So the easier the user can give feedback, the more incorrect information the source will receive. Now, our projects focus on the one-door principle. This means that the user is able to give feedback, not wondering where or how he has to do it. And then, on the other hand, he may, after the door, so we say the one-door principle, but after the door, he may not fall into a black hole. The user or the reporter actually wants to be personally informed about the processing of his report. On the other hand, the source holder, he wants to get structured information that is rich enough to assimilate the reported information, no matter in which application the user made the report. So the aim of our project is to build and to realize an API-based feedback system. The first focus of our project is incorrect and incomplete digital information, where we see the source holders are government institutions, where even if the source is an authentic source, a feedback system is required. We need a structured process, so it's recognizable for the user. We want that the dispatching of the reports gets automatic and as much as possible goes right to the responsive source who can correct the information. And of course, the reporter wants notifications about status updates of his report. Now, because we want our system is used widely in the region of Flanders, we created actually a standard of reports in context of our Open Standards for Linked Organizations program, the Oslo Square program in Flanders. And our information model is based on international standards, such as the W3C recommendations about web annotation and activity streams. But also we looked at the Open 311, that's a collaborative model and open standard for civic issue tracking. Our API we developed to request reports, not only returns JSON and XML format, but also the JSON LD format. And that's actually the only way we can guarantee semantic and technical interoperability. Now, having all these principles in mind, we can have a closer look to our system. And we start with the registration of a report. You can see here, for a registration of a report, the source must be known in our system, which means that all the specifications are known and that the specifications can be requested through our API. Then a report can be filled out, and this can be done in an application, in a web page, or in a generic user interface that is built in. We see three kinds of reporters. We have an anonymous reporter, a registered reporter, or an authenticated reporter. For example, for reports and feedback about personal data, we need to be sure that the reporter may give feedback on that information, so he has to be authenticated. Then the report, if it's filled out, it's sent to our system by our API. The next step is the feedback handling. Our system provides a basic validation, so only correct filled out reports will be sent to the responsive party. This dispatching is automatically, so the system sends automatically the report to the responsive party. And this can be just a team that validates the report and sends it or assigns it to the next administrator. Or our system can send the report to the source holder himself, or if the data has a central and decentral manager, the system can send it to the central data manager or to the decentralized data manager. Then we need that the administrator gives feedback to us also, to our system. and he gives our system status updates and some comment. And only in that way, so we have a fixed set of statuses that also increases the recognizability over the sources, and that makes it possible to maintain the history of the reports in our system. If that is done, we have a notification. Our feedback system works together with the notification system, and the notification system is another project that is being developed in our agency, and that makes it possible to notify the reporter about status updates of his report. This can be by an active or a passive notification. But also, we are able to notify the administrator if a report is assigned to him. And besides all that, you can always, at any time, ask our API for a report and his history. So all these parts together gives us a generic solution. It's not only a generic solution, one for the reporter, excuse me, because he do not have to wonder where or how he has to give feedback when he is using data. Two, it's a generic solution for the front end, because the front end only has to build in one API for many feedback over many resources. And three, for the administrator, because he gets structured information and valuable information to correct his source. I have brought an example. This is an example where the feedback system is used for errors in school certificates. It's an application where you can look and search your school certificates. And here, for example, the date is incorrect. And we see that we have some fields are for every report the same. So they are fixed, and other fields are specific for the source. So the source can model his own report. So it's specific for every source. And then the reporter actually only sees the send button. He doesn't have to know where at that moment the report is going to. He just has to give in the incorrect information and clicks the button. And after that, he gets notifications about how his report is processed. He can see which organization is handling his report and so on. He sees also the details of his original report he made. So that was a very short introduction, but that is how Flanders Information Agency wants to avoid junk mail in the future about incorrect and incomplete information, what is often still the case today. So thank you for your attention.
Yes, thank you. It was a really nice presentation. I'm Jaap Schaukema. I think we also discussed it earlier about, because I'm responsible for the Dutch feedback system, so I really like how you approach it directly from a generic point of view, where we more or less organically try to make it also more generic. Mm-hmm. If I'm correct, it's not live yet, I think?
Well, it's live for the school certificates.
Okay.
That's actually our first source that is assigned to our project. Yes.
Yeah, that was also my question, because we are struggling with, okay, there are new data sets who also want to implement the feedback system. Well, we have to configure it for every data set. Are you, doing it all at once, or also data set for data set?
It's data set for data set, because we are live, but not with all the great things and the details on it. So if a source is coming to us, we have to hard code the specific things actually for the source in our database. But it's in the future we want also a kind of configuration tool where the source himself can configure his report for his source.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh, very interesting. Curious.
Thank you.